So the film begins with the release. Whoever was sleeping, her dad came to burn her and asked her to read the morning prayer. She was reading a prayer when suddenly she heard a strange voice from outside her room. She quickly left the prayer and came out when she saw it. His father was killed by unknown men. She attacks these people to save her dad. She even cuts off a man's ear but still doesn't manage to save her dad. Actually, Draw UK dad was a shaman. He used to help those who were possessed by bad souls, but these people misunderstood Rahayu's father. He thought that Rahayu's father was a black magician, so Rahayu's father was killed. Rahayu now comes to her grandmother's house with her brother, but soon the villagers also know that Rahayu's father was killed because of black magic. So the villagers started talking bad about them. After 2 years, he started working at a clothing store to run a residential home. One day when she returned home, she saw that her father's uncles had come to her grandmother, who were forcing her father's old house to sell. Hearing this, Rahayu got very angry. To this day, the residents had understood why everyone considered his father bad and why they wanted to sell his property. To get answers to these questions, she goes to her father's teacher's house. Here she saw a strange stick of her father which was in the shape of a snake, which she started to touch with the fork. The teacher came from behind and covered him and told him not to touch him. Rahayu saw that stick again and the scenes went into flashback. It was seen that Rahayu's mother also died from snakebite. When he was bitten by the snake, his body was in a very bad condition and he had a very terrible death. This is not a teacher. Your old house is still being used as a playroom. Now the scene of the playroom is shown, where namaz was recited in unity. Sometimes someone puts a hand on his shoulder. One death he ignored, the third death he feared. He continued the prayer and immediately the light here went out and it was shown that now the souls of the dead were praying behind this man. When the man heard the voice of these people, he stopped for a long time and he broke the prayer and turned back and saw that there was no one there, but he was afraid of this sentence. So he tries to escape. Outside you see him terrified. From Rahayu, I had come to see my old house because it had become a place of prayer, so he decided to recite prayer. There are strange things going on here too. Suddenly, while reading the prayer, the light goes away and the soul of the dead women of one of them gather and start screaming when they see him. When the queens were trying to get out of here screaming, they got stuck in a curtain and went into another flashback from here. This is the time when his dad was alive and the processors used to remove evil energy from the bodies of people. He had seen how his father handled all the evil energy of this man inside himself, and then a snake came out of his mouth which went inside the man who had become a processor. He went into the mouth and pulled out another snake and then killed that snake. Now that snake that came out of his father's body, he came and did not find the dust of Rahayu, but then his father caught that snake and turned it into a stick. That is, the stick we saw was actually a mighty snake inside him. There could have been some magical bowlers. The scenes now come into the present and show that Rahayu has escaped from there of fear. In the morning, Rahayu went to his shop to do his work. Today, the shopkeeper with him will see more customers coming to his shop. She became jealous of him and began to speak ill of him and angered Rahi with his bitter words, his eyes absolutely white addresses, and she rushed to kill him like a cat. The fight was very intense. The shopkeeper with him and the people here let these two fight, and all the people stumble after seeing the white eyes of Rahi. The boy, a friend of Abrahi's, tells all of them that at night the liberated had gone to his house where his father kept some evil souls locked up. Perhaps one of them would have processed the releases. Well, the freelancers were very afraid of all these things, so they returned home. When he came home, he asked his grandmother about his father's work, and his grandmother also told him that his father used to take help from evil souls, and after doing his work he used to lock them all in one room. That's why that room has now become a pile of evil spirits. Gurihio 2. Ainda refuses to go there, but Rahayu is like it was again. I don't know how he got out of the room again. When she comes here, she sees that another man has come here to read the prayer, but here he was having a lot of trouble reading prayer. When Rahayu noticed this, he first got to see the man reading this prayer. Chin has a child hanging, that's why he was having such a hard time. Now he himself came to read the prayer. When she was reading the prayer, she saw the feet of many of her souls. She got very scared and started reading the prayers and holding her head as if a soul had suffered from reading the prayers. Seeing him sitting in front of Rahayu, Rahayu is scared and goes to the back side where a lot of more souls were already lying down and trying to catch him now, and with this he feels like a human from the past again. In the past, his father was performing rituals on a man through the souls he had, showing him from the position, and at that time there was release. Ritual was broken, and all the sources of all of them processed the release, and there is also a twist here that the release is not now, but from childhood. Possessed by evil souls, then she was now in the prayer room again, and she runs away and comes back to her house from the prayer room. That is, the scenes are back in the present. As soon as he came to his grandmother, he saw that he had killed the girl in the morning. He was scolding her. He apologizes to his mom, and here his grandmother strictly tells him that I had refused or would not go to that room, but Rahayu felt bad about this. Now, after quarreling with her grandmother, she goes to the playroom again and starts praying. Where a new look comes from this, it appears that the small release was processed by some soul and the small release. He was sleeping in his lap. When she tries to escape from this room, instead of leaving this room, she reaches the world where all the souls were about to attack her, but before that someone pulled her hand and saved her. He was at his father's teacher's house when he regained consciousness, and his friend was with him. His father's teacher tells him that in your childhood, you were processed by these evil sources, and your father's uncles had come from here to say your monotheism, but they could not do your monotheism properly, and when you returned home. So you called all these souls yourself? For this reason, from that day until now, Rahayu was badly in the possession of those souls. Tell me you still need to do it loudly to fix it. As the days go by, the situation gets worse and worse. His health had deteriorated greatly, and now a lot of souls were visible in the place, even at her place of work. When the grandmother of Rahayu has come to the market to take the necessary goods, then the one whose daughter was killed by Rahayu stands in the market again and starts insulting the grandmother of Rahayu. Seeing this, Rahayu doesn't know what happened inside him. A strange energy started to form and a snake came out of his mouth, just like it used to come out of her dad's body, and that snake went and bit that aunt. This was seen by all the villagers. Now everyone seems to have done all of this. The villagers were ready to get them out of here. All the situation was handled, but during the stormy night again, we were shown a scary scene that the same strange poor energy came out of the body in the form of a snake and went to the aunt who had insulted Nani. All the power together killed them. The villagers thought that this must have been done by Nani. That's why the villagers came to punish him. Even then, Serbo handled the last situation and said that if Nani is responsible behind all this, then we will get our truthful and see. In this, a living person is laid down wearing a shroud like a dead person and made to confess his sins. If he has committed the crime, he dies on the spot, and if he has not, he lives. Nani also agreed to perform this ritual at this time because she had not done all this. The next night, it is shown that Rahayu was a nanny. That ritual was also started, and Rahayu prayer went to the same pad room to read instead of seeing visuals. Here a lot of souls started to scare her, but today she was not afraid. On the contrary, she scared the souls by screaming because she had also become very powerful. At the same time, an energy was released from inside him, and here we saw the bath. That she also went to a different world of souls where she was very afraid. Going from one room to another to the third, he saw in one room Rahis sitting between the souls. Seeing this, she screams loudly out of fear, and here she comes to her senses in the real world, seeing them alive. All these people knew that Nani's hand was not behind the murder of that aunt. Now, despite proving her innocence, Nani was very afraid. He had decided to quit. Before leaving, he tells Rahi that I am going to hand over the property to your father's uncle Sintot. As soon as I hear the name of Sintot, he was so angry that his eyes turned black. Someone processed him and told Nani that no one but the head was behind my dad's death. The man who tried to kill my dad, I bit him, and after my dad died, I had seen it with Ko, and the villagers were also gathered by uncle so that we had to leave our house. He says in a strange voice that he has not killed our father. This sound was so terrible that Nani had to cover her ears and fainted after saying all this. Rahi was conscious now in the evening. He didn't even go to work. As soon as she regained consciousness, she was told that she had been fired because of her late arrival. Seeing her remaining salary, she is told to leave here, and Rahayu comes home and starts crying. When he is sad at his crying, the power inside him awakens again and a snake comes out from inside him. His owner was cut off brother, due to which his owner also died. After Rahu's sentence here, Nani was terribly afraid. They didn't understand anything. They were having hallucinations of snakes everywhere. They saw snakes everywhere. Even when Rahu's brother came to ask him for water, he did not understand anything. They saw that a snake was going to kill Rayu's brother. He grabbed the serpent and started beating the serpent against the wall with great force. She wanted to save Rayu's brother. When Rahayu also came here, she stopped Nani from doing this, but Nani did not stop, and immediately when she came to consciousness, she came to know. He did not kill a serpent, but the brother of Rahi. Because of Annie's hallucinations, she began to think that child was a snake, and this thing makes her very sad. He had committed a murder. He had first been accused of murder, and now he had actually committed murder. Her mental condition was not good, so she committed suicide. Abrahi was shocked to see his grandmother dead. When she regained consciousness, she was in her father's uncle Sintosh's car, who was going to take him. After seeing this, he fainted again. Another man came to his senses at Santosh's house, where Santosh's wife saw him and lovingly explained to him that, "Son, what are you thinking? He's completely wrong. Worry is not what you think. You don't just need your dad's property. He has a lot of money. She has built an incantation school with her own money where children are taught exercises. The bad guys understand everything that happened here. Your dad's death is responsible for Nani's death. Do not think that you have been made by these evil spirits." Night falls and Sintok's wife goes to sleep in her room. At night he is shown in a dream the brother of Rahi, who tells him that Rahi, it is connected to that prayer room, and if his life is to be saved, then it is necessary to do a exorcism for him, and for exorcism it is necessary that snake stick which is made of his father's power. Which sister brother tells all this to Santosh, and Santosh? He goes to that player's room to get the stick. While searching for that wand in this room, they find strange black magic things. After reading some incantations on G's, Santosh comes to know that Sara's Sara is Surabs, Rayu's father's teacher. In fact, Surabs are behind killing Rahi's father. It was black magic. Now you ask, why did you do this? Hearing this, Serbo said, ever since K-Dad Simri started helping people, people stopped coming to me. People used to go to Simri for them. His wealth increased and mine decreased. My name began to decrease and Simri's dominance increased. Couldn't stand it later. That's why I planned to kill him. Actually, it was not Simri's uncle but Servo, Simri's teacher, who wanted to grab his property. Therefore, when Rahayu also came back to the village and came and met Servo, Servo deliberately met him. He was sent back to the prayer room so that he could again become those powers from which Sintot had saved his life in childhood. After knowing all the truth, Sintot comes back to the Rahi with a stick. In order to do one of his loud seasons, Rahi was brought to a room where there were many men, and one of these men was also him. Seeing the one who killed Rayu's father, Rahayu gets angry and even energies regains control of sails. His eyes get weird and he screams like crazy and rises to attack Santosh because he thought Santosh killed his dad, but here Santosh tells him the truth, that it was not me but the Surbas who killed your dad with their empty moon. I have been shouting, saying, I have seen the man here who had killed my dad. Then this time Sintos made this confession. That boy was my son, and I just found out 2 years ago that my son was involved in your father's murder. I was involved with Serbo, and I just hid this truth to save my son. and that's why your family was so insulted. Your family had to endure a lot. Your grandmother died, your brother died, and I still have the lyrics of this thing to this day. How did he hide such a big truth? To punish her for her mistake, she gets her son processed with evil energy, and her son then becomes a processor and kills him. Hearing a strange voice, Santosh's wife comes into this room and sees that Santosh is already dead and killed by his own son. He's the first. He brings his son to consciousness by jamming him with azers, and when his son sees that he killed his father, he breaks down. The remorse of this sin had shaken his mind, and because of this he commits suicide, takes his own life. The situation was getting out of hand. Sintot realized that a powerful rhyme was crucial to manage the chaos. She casts aside her sorrow, begins a loud chant at the sight of her husband's death, placing her son there, and expels all the malevolent energies within her. As soon as the dark energies leave his body, she releases them. Rahayu becomes absolutely normal, and the next day we are shown a single of Santosh and her son. Rahayu was suffering a lot, but Santosh's wife was also satisfied with this. Jo, who was a very good lady, very lovingly explained to Rahayu that you are not responsible for all this. Don't feel bad for all this. All this happened because of evil energy, which I have removed from your body one by one, and now you are completely normal. Chinto's wife also told him that you were processed by this evil energy. The name of the jinn that was processed was that, which is a very powerful jinn. That jinn had some links, some energy was also inside the category from which the paths were made. Therefore, Santosh's wife also gets that stick destroyed, so that after today there is no connection with any such energy of the paths, and just showing all this, this story ends here.